Politics of Samoa takes place in a framework of a parliamentary representative democratic state, whereby the Prime Minister of Samoa is the head of government. Existing alongside the country's Western-styled political system is the Wharamate chiefly system of socio-political governance and organization, central to understanding Samoa's political system. From the country's independence in 1962, only Mati could vote and stand as candidates in elections to parliament. In 1990, the voting system was changed by the Electoral Amendment Act, which introduced universal suffrage. However, the right to stand for elections remains with Mati title holders. Therefore, in the 51-seat parliament, all 49 Samoan members of parliament are also Mati, performing dual roles as chiefs and modern politicians, with the exception of the 2 seats reserved for non-Samoans. At the local level, much of the country's civil and criminal matters are dealt with by some 360 village chief councils. Fono o Mati, according to traditional law, a practice further strengthened by the 1990 Village Fono Law. The national government generally controls the Legislative Assembly as it is formed from the party, which controls the majority seats in the assembly. Executive power is exercised by the government. Legislative power is vested in the assembly, but the government generally controls legislation through its weight of numbers in the Fono. The judiciary is independent of the executive and the legislature. The 1960 Constitution, which formally came into force with independence, is based on the British Westminster model of parliamentary democracy, modified to take account of Samoan customs. 2 of Samoa's 4 highest-ranking paramount chiefs at the time of independence were given lifetime appointments to jointly hold the office of head of state. Another paramount chief, Fiame Mataafa Fomuana Mulinu'u, was elected into parliament and became the first prime minister of Samoa. Malietoa Tanumafili too held the post of head of state alone since the death of his colleague, Tupua Tamasis Myol, in 1963. Tanumafili died in May 2007 and his successor, Tupua Tamasis Tupula Tufuga EFI, was elected by the legislature for a 5-year term in June 2007. At the time the constitution was adopted, it was anticipated that future heads of state would be chosen from among the 4 Tamara Aiga royal paramount chiefs. However, this is not required by the constitution, and for this reason Samoa can be considered a republic, rather than a constitutional monarchy like the United Kingdom. Parliament can also amend the constitution through a simple majority of votes in the House. The Samoa system is a very hard model of parliamentary democracy where the executive and the legislative arms of government are fused together. The Prime Minister is chosen by a majority in the Fono and is appointed by the head of state to form a government. The Prime Minister's preferred cabinet of 12 is appointed and sworn in by the head of state, subject to the continuing confidence of the Fono, which since the rise of political parties in Samoa in the 1980s, is controlled by the party with the majority of members in the Fono. The unicameral legislature, named the Fono Auau Faitula Fono, contains 49 members serving 5-year terms. 47 are elected from ethnic Samoan territorial constituencies. The other 2 are chosen by the Samoan citizens of non-Samoan origin on a separate electoral roll. Universal suffrage was extended in 1990. But only chiefs may stand for election to the Samoan seats. There are more than 25,000 Mati in the country, about 5% of whom are women. The third Tamaiga Id Tuimoalifano was the deputy head of state or a member of the Council of Deputies when Samoa gained its independence in 1962. The judicial system is based on English common law and local customs. The Supreme Court of Samoa is the court of highest jurisdiction. The Court of Appeal has limited jurisdiction to hear only those cases referred to it by the Supreme Court. Below the Supreme Court are the district courts. The Chief Justice of the Supreme Court is appointed by the head of state on the recommendation of the Prime Minister. Perhaps the most important court in Samoa is the Land and Titles Court, consisting of cultural and judicial experts appointed by the Supreme Court. This court hears village land and title succession disputes. The court derives from the native land and titles court put in place under the German colonial administration in 1901. Samoa's political stability is thought to be due in large part to the success of this court in hearing disputes. The current Chief Justice is Patu Tiawaisu Felefatu Saplu. Previous Chief Justices have included Conrad Cederkrantz, W. L. Taylor, C. Roberts, Charles Croft Marsack, Norman F. Smith and Gavin Dunn. From independence until the 1970s, no debate was conducted in the typical consensus-style manner of the Whamate system in the villages.